Hey, Raising America family. You know, one thing we're hearing from parents is they're really frustrated with the public education system. And we heard that a lot from Georgia's Senator Rashaun Kemp. It's actually why he left being a principal and wanted to change education through policy. Here he is. I think there was one caption, and I stopped on my phone, and I wish I had my phone on, where it said, you know, you don't adapt to the world, you have it adapt to you.
Yeah.
And I stopped on my phone, and I thought, oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to interview you.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to start with that.
Yes.
And I may not have gotten it perfect, but you get what I'm saying, because it sounds like that's a motto for you.
Yeah, it's like, let the world adjust to you.
Yeah.
I truly believe that, especially in this time and age, people want folks representing them and speaking for them that are authentic. And I believe that we have been kind of trained to think that if you are an elected official or if you are somebody in the public eye, like you have to be this like squeaky clean character.
Yeah.
And it's like, just be you. Like people will adjust, like you will attract the people you need to attract.
Yeah.
You will deflect the people that you need to deflect and speak out and tell people how you feel. And I think people want authenticity and people want someone that's willing to be themselves, but also speak out about what they believe in.
But you also had to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Because you had, I mean, you were a principal, you were fine, you were an educator, you were making a difference.
Yes.
Why would you give that up?
Yeah, why would you do this? Why would anybody do this?
You're out, you're leaving. He's resigning, he's gone, he's gone.
You know, I have long said, from my experience, and no matter what walk of life you live, whatever profession you live, you can tie back something that you do or that you're impacted by comes from somebody in a state capital. And I believe that we need more people that are authentic, but also that have lived experience, especially in the education space, that is making decisions that's going to eventually impact a kid in a school that has that experience. And, you know, for far too often, education policy is crafted in a capital, but many of the people that have to make those decisions and vote on these things have never educated a child. And I think it's so important to have those lived experiences from all walks of life as you're making policy decisions. And it's like, you know, if somebody else can do it, why not me?
As a former educator, principal, there's a lot that needs to be fixed.
Yes.
I mean, I was thinking about, and I mentioned this in the last interview, when I first got into national news, I was working in Atlanta, so this is probably, it was almost 20 years ago, it was that big APS scandal.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, I just can't imagine. I don't know what I'm going to do with my kid. And now I have kids.
Yeah.
I mean, is it, can it be fixed?
Yes, it absolutely can be fixed. Like, one, we need good people making good decisions, right? And we need to, I think we're realizing like all the pressure can't be put on teachers. Like we can't expect teachers to solve every problem with our children. And so that's why I feel like policies, whether it's making sure kids are well fed, making sure that families have a decent place to live and they're not having to move, all of these things have an impact on what ends up being a student's test score, right? And you have educators who are then pressured, like, look, your kids aren't performing. Well, how can we expect kids to perform if their like basic needs aren't being met? And so I think that, yes, it can be fixed. And I think that if we address, you know, I'm on a study committee studying chronic absenteeism. Like if the kids aren't in a seat, then obviously we're going to have problems when you go and give them a test because they weren't learning. And so we have to address all of these issues in order to really see an increase in, you know, academic performance and, you know, relieve some of the pressure that's put on educators. And I believe that a lot of it is whether it's school culture, the communities in which kids live in and are able to thrive, all of that plays into student success and teacher success ultimately. And a lot of it also is mental health.
Oh boy, let's talk about that. But first, you were a principal before you were a parent.
Yes.
Did you think that you were prepared to be a parent?
That is a good question. I don't think anybody's ever prepared to be a parent. Like, yeah, we watch TV, like and I hate to say it now, like I used to watch the Cosby Show, and like I wanted to be,
Easy.
yeah, Bill Cosby,
No
or Dr.
problem.
Huxtable. No, like scratch that, not Bill Cosby.
We all grew up on
I
the
wanted to be
Cosby
Dr.
Show.
Huxtable.
Yeah, exactly. No, but we all
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
all
that's
grew
what you
up with
think it's
that.
gonna be. Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
remember my mom loved watching
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
show. Like
Yeah.
it's the perfect family
Yeah.
with the right amount of humor. Nobody had any issues.
Right,
Like it was all
right.
superficial.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not what it's like.
Yeah, it's not what it's like. And you learn that there is no like book that like tells you exactly how it's going to be. And it's all like you learn while you're doing it. And I was young when I became a parent. I actually was a parent when I became a principal. My son is now 21, getting ready to be 22. And I was learning while I was doing it. And as with all parents do, you learn by mistakes. You learn by like, oh, this works. This is really cool, and you learn, I think, parenting now is different than it was back in the day. We're much more willing to take risk and say, you know what, you need to live life. Like you go, you figure it out, have some fun while doing it. I think nobody's ever prepared, but you just kind of do it and you realize like, oh, I'm not that bad at it,
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm doing all right. I'll give
Yeah.
myself a B.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did it prepare you for now a role in politics, right? Because a lot of people will look up to you, even people who are older than you,
Yeah.
because you represent them.
Yeah.
And a lot of people.
Yes. It is a lot of responsibility, but it's a responsibility that I love to have because I think that we need good role models. We need people that is real, that will show people like, look, anybody can do this. If I can do this, you can do it. Is it always easy? No. And be willing to share that. Like, look, I'm pissed that my bill, did not get heard yet, or I'm pissed that somebody's making this decision, but also realizing there's good in the people that on the floor may be mad at, but realize like, you're actually a good person. And I think now more than ever, people need to see that because things are so divided. But just because there may be a D behind my name and an R behind somebody else's doesn't make them the villain. And there's actually people through this experience that I've learned, like, we would never in a million years have interacted. You're a farmer down in Valdosta, and I'm a city boy here in Atlanta. But, because of our professional experience, we are now connected, and I actually like you. And I think that we need more people to see that. And a farmer down in Valdosta can be a mentor or be a role model just as much as I can here in Atlanta.
So how do you approach that conversation? Do you approach it with vulnerability? Like, here's my life.
Yeah.
This is what my house looks like. It looks different than my partner looks different than yours. My family looks different than yours. Is that how you approach it? And how do you get other people to approach life like that?
Yeah, one of the things that stood out to me most when I decided I was going to run for political office, folks asked me, well, how are you going to run? I'm like, what are you talking about?
What do you mean, how am I going to run?
Yeah.
I'm going to say, hi, I'm running. That's how I'm going to run.
Right, exactly.
But
and what they were asking me was, are you going to let people know that you are gay? Are you going to let people know that you're married to a man? I'm like, absolutely, I am. Like, I didn't.
Here we are.
Yeah, I didn't like decide to run for office to get back in the closet, right? But
doors are open.
Right. Like, and I really think it's that. Like, people need to see that there are so many different types of families, and at the end of the day, we have the same problems, we have the same concerns, we celebrate the same successes, and it's just that, like, getting to know people. And one of the things I can say I appreciate about being in elected office, when I was coming down here, I was so nervous. Even my husband was like, okay, how are they going to, treat us? What is it going to be like? And people have been so receptive. Like, and, you can tell when people are faking it and like really uncomfortable. Like, I really have not gotten that. And people like are excited to meet my husband. They're respectful. They include him on things, even though most of the things are more geared towards women and like the wives.
You'll be fine.
But, like he can help change that, right? But, it really has been really encouraging to see the reception that we've got.
And it's funny when you're the same way, we're trying to discipline and put boundaries around our kids. And I always tell my husband, okay, I'm a bad guy here, I'm a good guy here.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you're a guy and a guy and a girl and a girl, you need, all I care about is the good and the bad.
That's right. That's
so
right.
how do you break, how do you remind people like you need those two roles. They don't have to be
absolutely
gender roles, but but you do need to have the good and the bad.
You do. And sometimes it switches. Like they figure it out. Like, okay, you're a little more relaxed on this than dad is, and I'm Poppy. You know, like, and my daughter's 4. Like, she knows. Like, she's, you know, they learn early on. Like, okay, they'll ask dad, and then like if dad says no, she goes to ask Poppy, and then she realizes like, oh, they actually talk, and like there's agreeing and saying no. But, you know, they also realize that, okay, when dad's not here, Poppy lets me do this, you know, and it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter what sex, like, it doesn't matter your family dynamic. They're going to figure out, like, who's the good cop, who's the bad cop. Sometimes it's, you know, one parent, and they figure out, like, okay, this is their vulnerabilities. This is where I can get away with something, and this is where it's not going to work. So, yeah, it's the same no matter what your family makeup is. Like, we all have the same problems and things with our kids, and they figure out how to work us. That's for sure.
So with your motivation to get into politics, was it the education? Was it that you wanted to show this what some people would say unconventional, but not really marriage that you have? What was your biggest motivation getting in?
Biggest motivation was my kids. Like, I want, you know, as with anything, like any parent wants their kid to live in a world that's better for them, right? They want them to have better opportunities, better possibilities exist, you know, because of what I was able to lay down for you. And that's really it. Like, I felt like if other folks can do it, and other folks can make decisions and policy decisions that are going to impact my kids, I want to be in that room. I want to be able to, you know, amend something that I think is going to have a negative impact, or to add something that I think is going to be additive to their life. And really, I just want my daughter, who is 4, and my son, who is 21, to have an amazing life that's even better than the life that I've lived. And a lot of it is dictated by policy. And so that's why I'm here.
So what keeps you up at night? So when I talk, obviously I talk to a lot of parents. The whole point of this series is to talk to parents. And everyone's a little bit different. Some parents are really fearful of what the world's going to look like for them when it comes to technology. Some people are really concerned that their kids are eating the wrong food. Some people are sending their kids right to private school because they're not getting a good education. So is there something that you and your partner talk about that make you really stay up at night?
Yeah. It's really the tone and tenor of our country. Like, things are so tense. Like, is it now always going to be like this? Like, I have to believe that we're like at this like inflection point that's a bump in the road, and not like this is how our world's going to be for the rest of the time to come, because I feel like we are so quick to other people, or to like demonize like people. And it's like so entrenched that like that concerns me, because then it means that because my family in many people's eyes is different, is my daughter now going to be ostracized, you know, as she gets older, because when, you know, they have parent events at school, and, you know, 2 dads walk in, like, how is she going to be received and perceived? And so, yeah, that's my concern. I think like, it's just like, when I was growing up, my best friend was white, and I had such an amazing time with his family. Like, and I'm afraid that not many kids are going to get those opportunities, because we're going to be so divided amongst so many different lines that, you know, kids aren't going to get that full lived experience anymore.
Yeah, we had a big conversation, my husband and I, where we were deciding where we were going to send the kids to school. And he said, what world are we going to raise them in if they don't see other people that don't look like them? Are you hoping that maybe when you say it's an inflection point, that the pendulum will swing? Because I would agree with you. And I don't even know if you have to look different or say different. People almost assume the worst. And a good example would be what happened with the assassination. I remember there was people who were almost reaching out to me negatively on social media, but I didn't even post anything. But they said, well, you're not posting anything exactly. So it's like they're automatically looking for ways to, well, you don't even know how I feel. Because I don't know if that's a space to share, because I'm here just to represent all sorts of voices.
Yeah.
So I wasn't saying anything because it wasn't my place to say
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really concerned about the way social media dictates so much of our lives. Like, and I truly believe that we have to do something about algorithms because now it just further entrenches us. Like, I will go on to X or to Facebook or to Instagram, and it truly is filtering based upon what it thinks I like. And like, similar to you were talking about with the school, it's like, if I am now like cut off from other views or other lived experiences because this technology is now figuring out, okay, well, you like this, so I'm going to just keep showing you, you know, R&B performers, and not realizing, like, you know what, there's country music that I like, there's rap music that I like, and it's okay if Beyonce does, you know, country, like it's good,
And
like
she
it's
looks
good music,
fabulous.
she does, doesn't she? And like that is like a big concern of mine. Like, is this inflection point going to only be worse because of the way technology now drives so much of what we do?
But do we regulate that? How do you regulate that?
We have to figure out a way to regulate this. We got to. And I think we have an opportunity because of AI, and people are like, okay, this is kind of scary. It's amazing and creepy at the same time, right? So there has to be a way when we're addressing artificial intelligence to address how things are being filtered to us. If we don't, then things may not turn out.
So policy that you would present with your son probably looks different than policy you would present now that your daughter's almost 5.
Yeah.
5 or almost 5?
She's 4, so she has a little bit of
So
time.
she'll go to kindergarten next year.
Yeah, next year. Yeah.
So she'll start school.
Yeah.
So how have you morphed into a different figure now that you have the ability to make change? You know, what does that look like?
Yeah, you know, anything that I, you know, come across or like any experience we have with her, I'm like, is this something that I can address down at the Capitol?
Let me take some notes.
Yeah, because you realize it's not just you. Like, you hear from other parents, they have the same concerns. You know, as with any parent, when you go into a school now, like, you're looking, okay, my kid's classroom's here, there's an exit there. Like, why are you looking at that? Because you want to know that if somebody comes in with a gun, like, are they going to be able to get out, or is the door going to lock? You know, you think about Uvalde and, you know, a door being propped open, which now we know, like, it was shut by the teacher. So I don't want to, you know, say anything negative, like, towards her. But, you know, you think about all those things and all that, like, my experience now as a parent is different from when my son was in school. It wasn't as pervasive, you know, and, you know, it's really a scary thing. So, yeah, I think about all that stuff. It, you know, definitely drives like some of the things that I, you know, tried to address down here at the Gold Dome.
We talked a lot about that. We did a cell phone ban story because now it's probably even more. I'd have to look at it today. It's like a different state that's adding it every day, and Georgia's one of them. And a lot of parents who I reached out to said, and it was split, everything's always split.
Of course.
They would say, well, I need a way to get in touch with my son or daughter. You can't infringe on that. This is my personal property. But then I had Governor Kathy Hochul said, it's actually more dangerous. Their cell phone could ping, they could be located, they could be distracted and not find an exit. How do you win as a parent? How do you win in any of this?
Yeah. Ultimately, I voted for our cell phone ban here because as an educator, I know how distractive devices are, and also how they cause so much problems in schools, right? But that is one thing I raised on the Senate floor when we had to vote on this. I cannot ignore the fact that as a parent, I am scared to know that something could happen and the last person that my child talks to is not me. And so I ultimately bring it back to the fact that we can do stuff about distractions on guns, we can do stuff about mental health, but until we address guns, we're going to continue to have that fear and concern in parents' minds, because I think I would be more okay with banning cell phones if I knew that we were reducing the amount of harm that a sick, deranged individual could cause by shooting people with a gun. And so there are just common sense things that I think en masse the public agrees with, but we're, like I said, we're so entrenched in our politics and who supports us that we're not willing to just make common sense decisions that I think will alleviate some of those concerns.
And probably with mental health as well.
Absolutely.
How does that, why does that continue to get overlooked? When will there be a breaking point where we're like, wait a second, are we focusing on the right issues?
Yeah.
Is it social media? Is it all of the things that are impacting people?
I do think with mental health, we are coming to a general consensus that something has to be done. As with anything, there's costs, right? And so too many decisions are dictated by how much money we have. And at the end of the day, our safety and our mental and physical health are so important that I think people are realizing, okay, we have to do something about mental health. I think back to like how we fund education. That's one thing that we need to change here in Georgia. We need to have more counselors in our schools and more psychologists, but of course there's a cost to that, right?
Yeah. And it was taken away by the federal government, right?
It was, yeah.
So you want to supplement that now?
We got to. Yeah.
And teacher salaries.
Yeah.
Those are things that you're advocating?
Like you think they keep adding, right? And it
I
just
know.
keeps being more costs. But like those are things that we need to invest in, because if we want Georgia to keep being the #1 state to do business, we're going to have an educated workforce, and we're going to have places where parents feel safe sending their children to. And on top of that, we have to have affordable places to send our child for childcare. And that's another, cost that we have to consider.
We did a segment on that because it's actually, it's great to say that Georgia's #1 in all these things. And I know that there was a rebate for the teachers one year from the governor's office, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's much harder to stay #1.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd actually rather be the underdog.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easier to jump up.
It's easier to jump up and make a splash.
Yep.
So is there anything that you would have done differently with your 21-year-old now that you have an almost 5-year-old? Because, I have nieces and nephews that are probably around your son's age. To me, that was the guinea pig generation.
Yeah.
There was no Anxious Generation book. There was no research on it takes you 30 seconds to get addicted to a YouTube. Now when my daughter starts scrolling, I say, you realize it takes you 30 minutes and you're addicted. Like there's data for that. There wasn't data for your 21-year-old. There wasn't data for my niece and nephew. So you've got to be doing things differently. Not that you regret the way that that there's no regrets there.
Yeah, no, the cell phone thing would be one. I think my son got a cell phone when he was like 9 or something.
You didn't know?
Now my daughter, it's going to be much later, right?
24.
Yeah, it's like, girl, you got to be grown. Like, you got to buy it yourself. And then, even there are small things that we do differently. Like with my daughter, like she sleeps with a sound machine. Like back then, I'm like, okay, that's crazy. Like you get to sleep with, the white noise and things like that. Like,
did you know you can do brown noise? There's brown noise and white
different colors now.
Red noise.
It's so wild to me. Like he literally would just go to sleep. Like just be quiet, go to sleep. But yeah, now like she sleeps, it has to have the white noise, and now they have the machine that you can do the little bird noises, to wake her up. It's so wild. But there are little things that I probably would have done.
Okay, so before I let you go, give me a blue sky for 10 years from now. If I were to see you again, I accomplished this, this, and this. And I did it as a parent. I did it as a former educator. I made these changes.
Probably the most important thing to me is getting it right with literacy. We have 70% of kids that don't read on grade level. So I would like to believe that as a result of my efforts, that number's flipped. That 70% of our kids are reading on grade level, even higher than that, because if we truly want to be successful beyond our generation and future generations, we have to get it right with literacy. That impacts so many different facets of our lives. So I would like to believe that my efforts help to increase the literacy rates.
I know I said it was my last one, but do you think people understand that there's literally a correlation between literacy and incarceration rates?
Absolutely. I don't think that people understand that those numbers actually mirror
Correct.
the numbers in our prison system.
It's
that number.
There's data.
Yeah, there's data that shows that. Yeah.
So that's one of you have that as ammunition.
Yes.
To say, listen, here's the correlation.
Yeah.
How do we get them reading? If they're reading by 3rd grade, there's less likelihood that they're going to end up in the prison system.
There's literally a prison pipeline that is being built because of third grade reading levels. We need to stop that.
Okay. And also, not to put you on the spot, but what's the 5th grade birthday plans? It better be good.
They have to be huge.
Huge. 5 is big.
Yeah.
She is a lady.
She loves Disney. She's now like totally into Toy Story. Like we just got her the Jessie doll. Like she now has Jessie, Buzz, and Woody.
Over Forky?
Yeah, so she has to go see, go to Disney. I think we have to do that.
Okay, well, we're going to check in with you. And if you don't take her to Disney, then we're not going to invite you back on the show.
Hey, it's just as much fun for us as it is for them. So that's not a hard competition. Yeah.
That's true. Well, thank you, Senator. I appreciate you
Thank you
very much.
All right.